These data sheets may not look insane on their own, but they might reveal the big shift on how GW wants orc shooting to function in 11th edition. So here comes the Dakka. As today, we're going to break it down in another way that you have yet to see on the internet and some stuff you already have. So, of course, there's a live chat. Check out the poll, interact with the poll. We're going to have a couple of those going on through this. So we're going to break down the new orc data sheets that we've actually seen, talk a little bit about the fly abilities, and then overall my understanding and summarization of what orc shooting is going to look like, talk about some orc actual weapon profiles as well, and pontificate on these ideas. So welcome to the great war, and everybody who's here live. Shout out to you, get to have been here. Yeah, much love for sure. So let's get moving on right away. Let's talk about the big Mek Dakkarig. So just looking at the keywords right away, I had to look. We have vehicle keyword, walker, big Mek, Dakkarig. Now, one thing to take into consideration if you're new to transitioning editions is that GW always release the actual data sheet from the box itself, so it's plain and easy to be understood, and then the full, complete, well-developed data sheet will appear either in the digital rules or the codex, right? Of course. So just so everybody understands that as they look on these. That doesn't mean these are 100% fully informed, but they're informed enough that we can deduce a lot of things from this. So right off the bat, cool, nice to see 8-inch movement. Would have liked to see it a little more. He looks a little faster. He doesn't have, Deff Dread legs from what we understand, which are 8. We got T8 on here. I was hoping for a little more, but that's all right too, because we have a 3-up armor save, which is great. We know cover isn't giving us +1 to armor save anymore, so having a better armor save that doesn't immediately take us to our invuln when we take a little bit of AP is great to see as well. 11 wounds. Leadership only 7, but pretty normal for an orc, and then 3 OC. Now, as for the data sheet ability, Dakka Blitz in your shooting phase while making attacks with this unit. If its Blitzer cannon targets a non-vehicle monster unit, that weapon has +6 attacks. So that means when we're looking at the Blitzer cannon, we're going to add 6 attacks to that when it's going into anything that's not a vehicle or monster, which doesn't just mean infantry. That includes swarms, beasts, and mounted, which was a huge thing. Shout out to the Big Mek who's here in the corner. So Big Mek's here live action. He pointed that out as well. And for the Blitzer cannon, it's heavy, sustain, 24 inches, 8 attacks base, ballistic skill 5+, 7 shots, -2 damage. And of course, we're going to talk about how we can actually make this more reliable at shooting, because that's the real question at hand when we're looking at these data sheets, especially this one. The main things to look at here is awesome to have sustain built in. Awesome, we're going to get 6 more shots on a variety of other targets that aren't just vehicles and monsters. And then heavy is way more usable, because now you can move 3 inches and actually get that, which we're going to be needing. Also, what we're going to need is that we have the rocket launcher. Now, one thing I want to point out here when we're looking at unit composition, it shows 1 rocket launcher. Yet, when we're looking at the rocket launcher, it has 6 attacks, right? So most people are like, hey, rocket launcher changes. It's not D3 shots. It's a flat amount of shots. But not only that, but this rocket launcher is 6 attacks. And when we look at the other new orc data sheet, we're going to see that it's also going to have another thing we're going to have to analyze by looking at that. But take that into your orky minds to hold on to that. 6 shots, strength 5. Ballistic skill 5+, but strength 10. Whoa, we moved up the whole pip of strength to the awesome breakpoint of strength 10. We're very happy to see that. So much more utility in with that profile into a variety of targets. It actually feels a little bit anti-tankish, and we're going to talk about how this can actually be more of an anti-tank unit as we continue this, right? So we have -2 AP. Love to see that with the changes. Cover, flat 3 damage. So, of course, one thing people are very familiar with is, Dread Mob, right? If you're taking Dread Mob, throw an enhancement on this. We also can use it to get lethal. So we already know it has built-in sustain. So we might as well throw lethal on this boy, and he has lethal sustain both into that one unit at once. He does have cool abilities that he can do, like a full reroll to hit for 1 CP in the Dread Mob detachment, which is amazing. We're going to need those kind of buffs because of the, difficulty with cover, how everyone's going to have nice defensive modifications to our ballistic skill. So there's way more ways we can actually utilize that. But another detachment that I think is fun to look at is we have the speed wall that was shown, right? And that goes with what we've seen with keywords. So when you look at your speed wall, the newest, one of the newer detachments that GW put out to digital rules, there's an enhancement on there that just said big mech, right? And now we're looking at the keywords here and it says big mech. So we can see that GW is going to be very specific in the codexes for some of the enhancements, or for the new rules in the edition that are going to come out. They're going to be very specific, and they're going to be picking a specific type of character, right? Instead of it just being leader, or we know support's coming, support. They're actually calling out the datasheet keyword for that kind of mech or that kind of character, just like they would with War Boss, for example, right? But it says improve ballistic skill of bearers ranged weapons by 1. So now we're adding that enhancement on top of, he has heavy, as we spoke about as well in this detachment. But another thing he can have access to is, of course, because he's a vehicle, he can have a mech walk up and give him +1 to hit as well, which helps offset that weakness. And then if you're playing Dreadmop, or if you're playing Dreadmop break, we don't know if you can mix Dreadmop and Speed Wall or Cultist Speed and such like that with any of these buffs. But we also have super ammo. Sorry guys, always mess that up. Which gives anti 4+ vehicle and monster ability to this Dakkarig, or it says any orc unit. So, but Dakkarig can also have some of that. So there are ways that we're going to be able to utilize this unit, even though most people are poo-pooing orc shooting. It's really not 100% gone, right? When you're looking at, I can now do change the ballistic skill, and then I can actually give him +1 to hit, and then his heavy keyword gives him +1 to hit. That means I can actually get rid of an ignoring cover and possibly someone's defensive -1 to hit as well. That way I can actually be hitting much better and more orky in that way. And then if you pick an actual target, that gives you +6 attacks and you still have sustained. So the shooting's not completely gone. And that's just the buffs from playing with Speed Wall, which is a secondary, more 1-point detachment, right? We don't even know which of the primaries like Dreadmob is going to cost that we can start stacking these buffs even more. And we'll talk about more we can do about it with other as we move on to orc shooting, right, for in the other slide. But let's move on to the next data sheet, the Wartrakk. Was there anything else I missed on that Dakkarig?
No, but Dreadmob did win the poll.
Dreadmob won that poll already? Dang, I'm not surprised. Most people are. I mean, how can you not want to have it lethal and sustain and then possibly reroll hits? You can also reduce damage by 1 possibly in that detachment because he's a walker. When people shoot at him, he might actually be more durable in there too. And he has the invuln already. So yeah, it definitely feels cooler in that. So then we move to the Wartrakk. New data sheet. There are things that I did want to point out because this was one of those things that at first I wasn't super excited about, but the more I thought about it, I'm like, all right, I can make this work and we can find cool ways to be appreciative of this. So the Wartrakk. Now, GW spilled the beans, right? They had released an initial data sheet that had a support ability on there, which confirmed our theories, the ones we said on this channel as well, of that this would act like a Space Marine ATV where it can attach to a unit of bikers. Now, that is not appearing on the updated data sheet that they put on the website, but just as I pointed out earlier in the video, we don't know if that's going to be added when we get a codex where it's going to be, okay, now you get support and then you could be added to a biker unit. That's sweet, but as it is now, let's talk about that and then kind of, took out the best parts of it. So movement 12, T6, 4 up save, 6 up invulns, 7 wounds, 7 leadership. I'm glad it's not worse. And then 3 OC. This is mounted. It is not a vehicle. Very grateful for that, right? Because the big thing I was wondering was, what's going to be the distinction here and the difference between this and a buggy, right? Like what? So it's still mounted. Wonderful. A lot of things have anti-vehicle keyword and it gives up secondaries. There's a bunch of different negatives to being a vehicle generally. And from looking at its ranged weapons, I'm not looking at this to like throw a bunch of strats and enhancements on it, right? So you're not going to have to contemplate wasting those kind of buffs on this unit. So as for its range attacks, it has a custom shooter, rapid fire 2, 18 inches, 2 attacks, ballistic skill 5, strength 4, -0, 1 damage. Then you have a rocket launcher, 24-inch range, D3 plus 3 attacks, ballistic skill 5 plus, strength 10. Awesome. We're seeing the consistency of all the strength 10 rockets on there. -2, 3 damage. Now, let's point over again to the unit composition where it's showing 1 rocket launcher. Now, that's a little bit of an annoyance that we're going to talk about more when we elaborate on more of these things in the next slides. But we're showing that there's not a difference, at least for our model, on how we can determine why this would be different volume of shots. But other than knowing off the top of your head that the data sheet does that, right? It's showing 1 rocket, doesn't show 2 rockets, but then there's a different amount of shots for what's verbally or confirmed written to be the same range profile. All rockets used to be all D3, so make it easier. So that might be a little bit of an issue. Now, so far, is that awesome for shooting? No, right? Like I said, we're not really looking at this for a bunch of support on shooting. So like I said, one thing to look about it that we're happy about is it can possibly attach to war bikers. 2, it doesn't actually have a little bit of punching. 5 attacks, hitting on 3+, strength 4, -1. So it's like a basic little orc biker. And like I said, this rocket launcher doesn't have heavy, but its actual ability, indiscriminate detonations in your shooting phase. When this unit has resolved attacks, select 1 enemy unit hit by 1 or more of those attacks. Enemy unit now is suppressed until the start of the next command phase. While the unit is suppressed, it's -1 to hit rolls. Now, some people automatically were like, well, custom Booster Blaster does that already. No, it does not. The custom Booster Blaster is specific to the shooting phase. So this is a distinct, different ability. And I'm going to assume, because it's mounted and what we've seen from it being support roll, as when it comes out, it should be pointed quite cheap, as in less than a buggy, and maybe equal to or less than a warbiker unit, right? Because why would you bring this if you could just get another 3 warbikers? And we already know the knob warbiker is going to have a rocket launcher on him from his combi shooter. He spoke on another video where it might be a rocket launcher type weapon, or at least GW alluded to an anti-vehicle type weapon on the knob of the biker units, right, for the new warbiker models. So if the point cost of this is too much near a biker unit cost, then why wouldn't you just pick more? So I'm thinking it's going to be even less than a biker unit, end up being 50 points, hopefully, right? That's what I would really like to see. And in that way, when we're looking at the missions of the next edition, it looks like you're gonna need a lot of little unit activations, right? When me and David and people that I know of have been playing, we're playing Terraform, we're playing missions that you have to actually activate and do stuff in the middle of the table. I think that's what the next edition is really going to look like. And I think something like this that is fast, not super easy to kill, can actually suppress the enemy to give benefits to your other better units, like a 20-man unit of boys, Gas leading a Mega Knob brick, whatever you're going to end up adding this little fast, I can do utility, I can suppress, so the other actually anvil or hammer type units on the field are actually getting more defensive buff stacked to them. This unit doesn't actually have no place in the game, which is what most people were wondering about, right? And they're like, well, I'm going to have this trash unit, it can't shoot anything, I can't use it. Nope, it's going to be playing a debuffing the enemy, scoring type game, taking up positions on the field, and not being just absolutely thrown off the table with some heavy bolters, right? Anything else that you missed there? I don't think, David. But I do have more to say about orc shooting, guys. Don't worry about that, because this was really just to get it going, the conversation going. What's up?
Yeah, and just for a comparison, right now, the ATV is about 20 points cheaper than a bike unit.
Okay,
so that's something we can start to think about.
Good. So the GW is aware of that, and just so you guys know, I'm going to see the chats. We're going to go through it at the end because I have a lot still I'm going through. Just keep it concise, the message, and then you guys can respond to what I put forward if I missed anything or if you disagree. But thank you very much. I see it. Very generous, and I have more to say about the shooting. But like I said, I think GW is kind of pushing a speed wall. I think a lot of stuff that I've seen in the speed wall detachment is kind of coming forward to be more interesting from the Dakka mech, where you have the mech and you give the vehicle rapid fire. That as well, right? If you look at Dakka mech, if it has an enhancement to a baby mech, you give a vehicle +1 to hit and you give it rapid fire. So you could give the Dakkarig have rapid fire for its rockets and its actual Gatling gun on top of its other buffs. It's heavy and whatever enhancements you stick on it too, like the Master Mechologist, which is already +1 to his ballistic skill, and the other strats. So there's still a lot to see here. GW is pushing the speed wall kind of theme, but that's for the whole edition itself. So that's why I'm actually taking a look at that. And I think that org players, as we rub our couple brain cells and our fungal brain cells together, we can see that we have some ways to shoot, and GW definitely wants us to shoot. They see us as a shooting capable army to a degree. Now the question is, where the heck do they get the idea from? Lord. So let's keep going with this. We have the flying model. So speaking of the speed wall, I just want to throw this out here as well. Real quick, if you didn't see, they changed flyability to make it more useful. So, and it also accounts for advances, fallbacks, charge moves, and normal moves. So that's huge for the flying changes. But if you're an org player, you know you only have two. You have the Deffkoptas and you have the Storm Boys. So really, this was a very cult of speed or speed wall or your opposition kind of perspective. Nonetheless, this is showing that vehicles subtract 2 from their movement. They ignore the terrain and the units in front of them have this pictures depicting, and they move right through it, which means that goes around and makes sense for the Deffkoptas moving the straight line in the speed wall to move 24 inches and then shoot. So that answers the question for that. Now we know if we use speed wall, the actual detachment isn't useless in its wording, which now makes way more sense, at least in the case for the Deffkoptas, right? Where we're like, okay, we weren't even going to be able to use them. So yeah, but now you know we can use it. We'll see how else that affects the cult of speed and overall just Deffkoptas. But for the most part, that's going to be very impactful to our opposition. So yeah, as we look forward to that. Now let's go back to the orc shooting. So we have the rockets, right? So the rocket changes that I still wanted to keep talking about for before I end with the orc shooting and my other conversations about the grots. So we have rocket changes and we have a little bit of showing or understanding of blasts going forward. So right off the bat, we know they're strength 10 now, and we have the AP of still AB2, but since cover's not gonna be everywhere, just modifying people's armor, that's gonna help a lot for our rockets. Acts more as a anti-vehicle and heavy infantry weapon as a whole. But the blast changes. We don't see blast on our rockets, and today GW showed the Eradicator, heavy bolter eradicators for Space Marines, and their datasheet ability was blast 1, right? So now we know that there's going to be maybe a variety of blasts. We know right now there's blast, there's sustain 2, there's sustain D3. So now what is there going to be for blast, right? Blast D3, blast 2. And we know there's other weapons. Really, orcs used to be, we know rockets aren't, but other orc weapons have blast a lot as well. And what will that look like going into our units? So blast is an interesting to take into consideration. Like I said, orc GW showing its hand a little bit more. Also, what we noticed from the rockets is there an inconsistent amount of shots between the couple that we've seen. So what is that going to look like? Are we going to have to remember multiple data sheets with their specific rocket? Even though it says on the data sheet 1 rocket, you have to explain your opposition. No, it's 3 plus D3 for this one. They're like, but that model has just 1 rocket. And he's like, no, but that one has 6. And then it's like, well, but we don't know how that's going to look, and that's going to be a little bit more of a headache if we don't get more of a generalization on this. So that's the only thing negative that I've seen from there, right? Now we also have what will custom Mega Blasters look like? If you're aware right now, custom Mega Blasters have a hazardous, but they're also flat 3 shots, -2, and then straight D6 damage, right? So what is that going to look like for them? Are they going to go up to strength 10? Are they going to be more shots? Are they going to be the blast 2 now? They still going to have hazardous? It just put a lot of thoughts in my head for what could happen to the custom Mega Blasters, because the rockets used to look just like it, right? So that's a little bit odd. But speaking of, what else will these units that I have put on screen look like for their rockets? Are they going to be different and each, on its own distinguished way, and is going to be annoying for us? And chat saying like, yeah, we have World Eaters has 7 profiles called chain blades. It's at least a little more acceptable because I think you only have 7 data sheets in World Eaters, right? But I have 7 right here of rockets just off top of my head, and there's probably a couple more like spare flyers and certain characters. But I get what you're saying. GW is getting a little lazy with the wording. Which is going to be another layer of things to remember and annoyance. So, how will Tankbustas look? How will Deffkoptas? Will they still have Twin Link? Will they have the same amount of shots? That's a huge deal when we're looking at the speed wall and we're looking at Cultist speed. Gork and Morkanauts, they have rockets built in generally on all of their models. Killa Kans, they can pick that as the weapon profile, and every Killa Kan has it. Are they going to have their own unique one, which then stacks better with Dread Mob or worse with Dread Mob, or makes it useful in all detachments or none? That's a huge deal. Negacheck Scrapjet, you have Deff Dreads who can take 4 rockets in a pinch if it really wants to. And then last but not least, general infantry rockets. So what will the rocket on the boy look like? Will it be different than another unit? The Mando in our character in our units, and the spanner that goes with your Lootas or your burner boys, for example. Right? It's like, and so there's a lot of things to really think about if GW changes it up too much, and maybe we're just over exaggerating. But these were all things that I immediately started to think about and had to take a look at. I think that was it with this one. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the positive changes, but this was more of a summary and leaving more questions in the air that I think a lot of people haven't really thought about or questioned going forward. So what is Orc Dakka gonna look like, right? Most people are understanding that we're gonna have to stack a lot of buffs. So you're going to look at Dread Mob, you're going to say, I can give a unit ignore cover as an enhancement, then I can give them a +1 to hit from a unit. And then you can also use a stratagem to give them an additional modifier to that. You're going to need to stack that kind of offensive potential. You can also look at something like a Luta, where a Luta, now that it has heavy built in, it moves up a floor so it can look over and see the enemies from above for plunging fire. So you get plunging fire as well. You get heavy, and then you also get your rerolls off. Maybe you have a character and then you have an enhancement on that unit for ignore cover that you can get buffs on as well. And then you also have just the theory of the changes to cover helps all of our weapons that generally have like 1 AP but good volume in some cases, like the Gorkanaut, where the Gorkanaut has its Gatling weapon on its arm, which works really well into demons, right? I play demons a bunch of times with it. I give it the reroll from the Dread Mobs. I give it, I think lethals. It might already have sustain built in, like we're looking at the big Mek Dakkarig does. Some unit like that kind of volume shreds infantry, where I was destroying demons because they were taking 4-up saves because they're invuln. Well, now with our volume and lack of cover everywhere, there's a good chance that all of our AP -1 from our flash kits, our Lootas, our miscellaneous fire is going to be way more devastating in its high volume, even though we're going to be hitting worse because now we already have a solid strengths to our weapons, right? Strength 5 sometimes on our small arms, 7 everywhere, our auto cannon fire of strength 8, and you have the rockets being 10. So now when enemies are taking saves, it's when they're going to be taking more often saves as they already did, but worse armor saves. So that's a little bit going to offset the issue that we're seeing as well going forward. So most people are just thinking of, well, I have to hit. Well, now when your opponent takes saves, all of those saves are going to be worse for all of those weapons that have 1 AP, and you just got used to shooting them at stuff that was pretty much just taking its armor save. So it's not just the fact if you're gonna, I'm gonna hit worse. It's you're gonna also make the enemy take worse armor saves. Orcs, in theory, in GW's eyes, are a combined arms army, right? We know that because of what they did to the boys, where the boys now have to use the shooters for free. They can use their shooters. It's a part of their their profile. It's a part of their gun, and they have their choppa and slugger. So right there, right off the bat, for one of what is our battle line identifiable unit for our entire faction as a whole, GW is like, you need to have your shooters on deck. because it's Orc's theory that you should have shooters on deck. And that's correct understanding of them, right? Though we see ourselves as a almost non-shooting army, that's not the case. GW always charges us points for units that are capable of shooting. We are not world eaters in the sense that we have pretty much no shooting. Now, I understand some world eaters people be like, I got a plasma pistol, right? And you got a forge fiend or something like that. I understand there's a couple units and some variations of small stuff, but GW directly charges us for units that can do both and then assumes that we're going to do both most of the time. And our vehicles work that same way as well, where they shoot and they fight. They're not just shooting platforms, other than this Dakkarig that we've seen coming forward. And last but not least, we have unknown buffs and synergies that are to come that GW still hasn't really shown. And like I was alluding to with the speed wall has a bunch of ways that seem kind of built in or helping you to be capable of actually shooting. You have enhancements, and then you have stratagems, and then it's likely to be a support detachment anyway, so then you're going to be able to stick that on another detachment that has maybe even more buffs as well. So yeah, so I think overall, was there anything you think I missed with that? I think hopefully I don't think I missed anything with that, guys. I think I covered all that. I was trying to be nice and concise. Now I can hit all the super chats and everything that was being spoken of. So if there's anything else you think I missed, right, for what orc shooting is going to look like, let me know in the comments. I do think that saying it's dead or completely saying it's irrelevant is kind of putting the cart before the horse, right? I think you should hold horses on that. We can already see ways that we can stack multiple buffs and get a little bit of support fire that actually is useful and helpful, because all it needs to do is hit now, and the enemy is going to be taking a bunch of saves on generally good volume of orc attacks. So take it with a grain of salt what I have to say, because everybody has their own opinion. But trust me, whenever I'm saying something positive, I'm also being realistic with the expectations. So I'm not pulling your chain. I'm not hyping you up just because we're the army and just because we're the faction army and everything like that. And sorry, the the addition faction right now. It's because I mean it. So last thing I want to talk about is the Run Hooders. Sorry. So that was in super chats. I mean the Run Hooders. So if you're still here, thank you. Now I want to talk about the Run Hooders, because this is another thing that I think has been completely overlooked for most things online that we've been talking about. And I get it. Some of these things are just stuff that I'm presuming, but hey, we're going to talk about it anyways, right? So where's a Run Herder? GW confirmed that Run Herders still exist, right? So they still have a place in our codex. They're still on their mind. They're somewhere out there. We don't know where, because generally when you see the Gretchen, where's the Run Herder, right? What's a grot without a herder? Waverbs, right? There's always some kind of Run Herder there to corral the grots into place and tell them what to do. They pretty much can't function independently. They I guess in theory they can, but not in the actual orc community should a grot ever function independently. He's gonna have an orc near him. So that being said, what's his point cost and utility going to be? Because now he's going to be acting more as a maybe support attachable unit to the Run Herder, right? And that could end up being not worth it, right? That's what they did in 8th edition, where he came with the box, but you had to paint points for him, and he really could just like hold an enhancement or something. So it might be a way that GW can say, hey, now your Groth can hold enhancements. Another thing here that I want to talk about is old versus new Gretchen box value. Are we going to see with the new Gretchen box, there'd be a Run Herder in there, or is he going to now be released separately and act more as like a character? And with the old Run Herder box, you got the model with him. So what's going to be the competition value here of an 11 model box versus a 10 model box, right? Because GW is already showing you, well, you don't need the Run Herder if he comes with the starter box without the grots. Sorry, if the grots comes with the starting box without the Run Herder. So wow, what's the incentive to take him? So possibly new model, right? That's me saying it, right? I haven't heard rumors, people around there. That's just my deduction from what's going on here, right? Because GW does seem to be pushing a little bit of a Hero Hammer edition. If you look at the starting edition, the start edition box, so many characters in these boxes. to the point that if you're trying to play like the 20-man unit of boys, you automatically got to separate them almost into 2 separate units to have enough units to play the game other than just big character bricks. Also, we know that you're going to be able to spread enhancements on multiple units. You're going to be able to have double down into multiple ways with multiple characters on different units, not just the boys like we used to. So it's looking Hero Hammer-esque, and I'll just say it. GW has incentive to come out with a new Runt Herder model, sell it independently for $25, $30, $40, and then just making a profit off making Runt Herders on the side. So it's not a positive thing that I'm saying here for that. I just have to kind of prepare the org community and say it, that we do have to wonder if that's going to be their approach. And if the rules are going to be so inflated that we're going to want to do it then, right? So very interesting in that way, at least. That was my questions on where's the Runt Herder, what's going on with him. So he is real. Don't throw him away and get rid of him and make boys yet. GW said he's going to be in your box. In your codex and our rules. But what role will he have? How will he get him? And how will GW reintroduce him is the real question here. So yeah, hopefully you guys like that. Now let's go over the chats and everything for everybody. Thank you for everybody who's still here. Let's see what all the got to say. Super support from the community means a lot that we can actually get the box set. We got Yusuf with 20 Waaagh Tactic memberships. Oh, let's go. David, you want to get Waaagh on here?
Whoa, thanks, Yusuf.
Yeah, so Big Mek's here now on deck, guys, for all those mech issues I was having. Now Mek's here always to help. Is there anything you think you wanted to say? We wanted to say else in the video?
No, I mean, it's an exciting time to be an orc, I think. Like you said, we still have yet to see a lot of these rules, so we shouldn't jump the gun on our opinions yet. Going through multiple editions together, that's kind of the general feeling that people have once they see the first couple rules. But yeah, let's just relax, guys. I think GW has big plans for orcs this edition.
Most people have incentive to get us all riled up for clicks, for views, for traffic, for conversation. And I'm not saying don't be emotional or don't have fun with it. Go ahead and do that, but don't disparage on your own army. It's kind of like self-defeating, right? So we can be realistic, because I've been realistic the whole time. I'm still positive. And that model looks sick every time I look at it. And thank you very much, Yusuf. Very generous of 20 Waaagh Tactic memberships. Whoa! So we've been putting out, we did some after action reports on there. We're trying to put out, and then I can do more live streams. I know the Speed Freaks game came out. Some people want to play collab on that, so I can play with the members. So if you got a membership, join the Discord, or if you got a membership, feel free to reach out and get stuck in with our paint competitions. Thank you very much to Yusuf for that. And for Wicked Joe with 20 Waaagh Tactic memberships. Did the General Joe come out of the retirement? We got the big boss back. Now he got all his models painted up, hopefully. Yeah, so coming back. Nice to see you, Wicked Joe. Thank you very much for the support and love. And hopefully you're excited at least some of these big Dakkarig, because I know you like all the big stompy bits, all big stompy gets on the field. So thank you for anybody who got that. Make sure you put W's in the chat if you receive members from any of these gifted, generous war bosses. Thank you very much for that as well. And of course, if you guys got any questions from the guys who gifted memberships, let me know, because Joe said, whoa. That not enough explanations for me, but still, whoa, that was a good one. I don't see Yosef say anything in chat, but if you have something to say, Yosef, I'll read it. But thank you very much. And we have our boy, Rycloth Gaming. Am I spelling that wrong? Rycloth Gaming. I said Rycloth, like a Star Wars. The wording on suppressing, select one enemy unit hit. So even if it doesn't punch through, I land a hit, I get suppressing on my target. I'm glad you asked that. Yes, that's exactly what that means. That means even if one of those little shooters hits your enemy, nobody gets hurt, their armor completely tanks and saves anything. Doesn't matter, you still get the buff. And that's what we're trying to say, is because it can run around and still be around the field doing actions or just getting in the way. On top of that, while it's moving around the field, if it's able to shoot at something, and you want to debuff the enemy because you know they're about to counter hitting one of your mob boys, one of your vehicles, whatever they're going to do, regardless if they're shooting or they're fighting, you could double on them, making them less reliable into your unit, which is what's nice about this. So generally, we don't really have a lot of that. And I think if we can get this ability for very cheap, like 50 points, whatever, 45 points, something weird, that would be pretty awesome to just be able to stick a couple of these or even one of these on your list, right? Suppress somebody, not give him incentive to easily pick it up in return. Later, he runs up and does some secondaries. I mean, it doesn't just fall over from bolters, not even heavy bolters, right? Heavy bolters, I think we just tank heavy bolters all day. You're like, no problem, right? So T6 actually has moderate armor save. 7 wounds is a little weird. That's a good breakpoint for not having all damage to stuff. Kill it right away on accident. So I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. I think it has a place though. So pretty cool. Eniga vehicle. Let's see, what's another one? Oh, my boy right here. Rick B. Dallas Open this weekend. Time to whoa out. That's what I'm talking about. Still hitting the events late in the edition, getting the last attacks going off, the last great walls. Right. If I'm playing my last game, I gotta say I probably want to play Dread Mob, Killa Kans, because I want to go supercharge my Killa Kans and drop multiple stratagems into them at once and blow people off the table, right? I want to be like big shells for bigger gets, re-roll hits, and just throw it at everybody and be, because I'm not gonna be able to do that next edition. You know, same thing for the Stompa, right? We can't use the Stompa like we've been wanting to use. Maybe I should use the Stompa one last time. Its current glory, like just re-roll hits and give it big shells for bigger gets. So thank you very much, Rick B, for that. And then of course the Bad Dog. Whoa, Bad Dog's local. Me and him gotta get stuck in once we get them. When we get them Battle Force boxes, we'll have our gray on gray battle. No joking. But thank you very much for the 5 Waaagh Tactic memberships. Very generous of you as well. We'll make it worth it, you guys. Thank you for keeping the Great Waaagh alive. You know, and that's how we got new cables. That's how David's able to actually talk now, because we didn't have a cable. So if you've seen one of our last streams, we were sharing the mic. So thank you very much. All of that contributes and helps a lot to keep the Great Waaagh alive. So thank you very much. And helps everybody else that's a part of here. So W, and then we got our boy Kans with our boy Flynn. And then I'll read a couple more chats from what you guys are saying before I get off here.
We did have a question about someone asking about the viability of
where is that?
I think it was the Wartrakk and Tactical Brigade.
And Tactical Brigade with the changes for the Tactical Brigade?
Oh, Dakkarigs and Wartrakk, are they viable specifically for Tactical
I mean,
Brigade?
Tactical Brigade changed. So I mean, I don't even know what it does. I don't even know all the new everything it does off the top of the head anymore. Then the brigade attachment. I don't even remember everything it does changed. I know it's more of a support. I think I just got so butthurt that it got changed that I didn't even care to remember it until it's time to play it again. Do you have its new buffs? We'll get back to that one then. Suppressing units as an orc doesn't seem very important, considering you'll do what you want to set the whoop to turn to suppressing even really matter. Yeah, because once you're out there and you're 5-up invuln, a lot of the time that's the opponent's time to actually say, okay, it's my go turn now. If I can break your back as the orc now that you're in the open, this is your only turn of having a 5-up invuln. I have to hit you at my full potential though. You know, can I hit you hard enough that you're not a threat to me anymore? Or if the enemy seeks to combined arms attack you and it can only shoot you and then charge into you, if you suppress them, it affects that same unit for both abilities. And if you can endure the shooting part, because let's say that it's just a shooting unit you debuffed, if you can endure the shooting from maybe it's Gladiator and you help your own unit out a little bit, well, then that means when he charges you, the charging part has to do more work. And if it doesn't do enough work, you'll still have a little bit of units left, right? Like my last after action report, where I still had just enough stuff left on the field where when the enemy hit me, he didn't break my back hard enough, and I was able to continue momentum and to keep crushing his units. So I think suppressing actually does a lot, because you're thinking suppressing with this thing earlier before my wall. Well, then you might just give it away and might just die. Sometimes might be worth it for a secondary. But we're talking about when it's time to suppress, you suppress when you're 5-up invulns wall up and everybody's already up on the field in the mid table. Then you run out and go suppressed your best unit that you wanted to respond with a little earlier or whatever that I couldn't reach, right? So it's not terrible. It's not going to be easy all the time, but that's why I said it has multiple uses. And it's not so weak that it can't just stand around, like be a little bit exposed while it moves around the field. Did you the tactical and some the website or something? What is it? Listen here. I don't know. What, any strats or something?
There's a strat.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know what would be because it seemed more like a support detachment. I don't know. I don't think so that it does anything. More Dakka, even more Dakka. Like I said, it's only infantry now. They didn't. It doesn't do Walker anymore. So no, I don't really see how that would be. I mean, these could be cool for the rocket changes, but I don't know how it would change for the Dakkarig or that. I don't think they buff it that much. Mm-hmm. Christian in the chat. Sounds like my former cousin. Let's do it. Yeah. So I think we covered a lot of it. Don't want to make this too long so people have rewatch. So if you're here and you think we did a good job, if I missed anything, you let me know all that in the comment. It means a lot, right? I'm really excited. But I also am not trying to fake people out on anything and trying to say that there's not things we have to worry about. I do think that we can think about a lot of these things, and some will be negative, some will be realistic. Speed wall, get finder, ignores cover, ammo, bubble, chukka. Yeah, exactly. Anti-emo 4+ means bubble chukka, -3, 4+. So yeah, what I like about what he's trying to say here is if I put Dread Mob plus Speed Wall, which I think might be an awesome, maybe awesome might be a little too strong. Very good combo because you're kind of slow as Dread Mob, so maybe Speedwall can give you a little bit of that. It also has a little bit of combat support for all those little units, and you still get to double down, double dip on stratagems that help your Dread Mob related units because they're not specific to like the Speedwall units. They just say like Orc unit on the strat. So that means it could be a Dread Mob utilizing the button and then still utilizing the stratagem. So that's what he's saying. And then also the enhancements from Dread Mob. So you could be like, this guy's getting the cord cover. This guy's going to get +1 to his ballistic skill. This guy's going to have lethal and sustain. This guy's going to have lethal. He's going to be rolling the hit rolls. He's going to, like there's a bunch of different units that are going to have different types of strats because you're not going to be able to put just all the same strats on one unit. So it's actually cool that you're like, all right, mech ability plus mech enhancement plus the stratagem, all 3 of those things plus my heavy keyword. All right, all 4 of those buffs mean that I'm hitting pretty good right now, and it's not a stretch to even get that off. I think it's not even like going to be super, super difficult to do any of that. Who knows? We'll see when it comes out. With that being said, shout out to the big bosses that were generous this stream and helped the Great Wall stay alive. And of course, thank you to everybody who watched this and was here live and getting stuck in. So I'm glad you guys are all here. Leave a like, subscribe, comment, let us know how we did. And of course, there's always one thing to keep in mind is don't cross our wall because we'll knock your teeth out. Whoa.